All right, it looks like we are on. Didn't know that. I'm just sitting here looking. Let me pull up, excuse me for looking up and away. I'm going to pull up Facebook and YouTube here. Excuse me. I want to make sure that, yeah, good. Let me also do Facebook. Facebook, where are you? There you are. Okay, give me a second to work all this out. Peace and blessings. I'm Malkiyyah Uriel, and this is Shabbat Morning Coffee. It's a little bit late for coffee, right? Well, some people drink coffee now, but it is a little bit late. It is not 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. It is later than that, and of course, my apologies. Hey, but it's Shabbat, so you relax, right? You relax. In relaxing, I have desired to... let me do this. Okay, yeah. It is a little bit late. It is not 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I needed to find... It is later than that. Volume. Let me do... There we go. So we don't have that feeding back. And the last thing I'm going to do is make sure that this is public to everybody on Facebook. And, yeah. I usually try to even look at what we did last night, just a little bit of Shabbat night praise. Didn't get a chance to look at that yet. A lot of times I'll check out the sound on that because the sound, what I'm hearing is not what you're hearing. Shabbat Shalom. This is, of course, Shabbat Morning Coffee. And... we're going to be talking about some good stuff on this morning, and going to be talking about the book. Yes, this book here. It is African Hebrews in America. Now, I want to say this. It's going to be expanded and expounded upon, right? But I want your help in doing that. I will give some book credits. I will actually, if you come up with something, some information that's great to put in here, I will actually give you a mention. And I will feature you in the book. And hey, that would be great. That would be great. You'll get a thanks in the book. You'll also get a mention in the book. And of course, what you have written will be quoted. Or I shouldn't say what you've written, but the information that you provided will be. It will be noted. Okay, you'll get credit for it. Now, in talking about the book is, before we do that, let me do this. I'm trying to make sure that at least once a week I am, we're drawing lots, so to speak. Again, this is talking about the Hebrew alphabet. These are my Hebrew alphabet coaching cards. They are important. They are handy dandy for not only not choosing, but picking out what's happening energetically, spiritually, basically spiritual energy. I don't know why I can't seem to say that. But looking at spiritual energy, how your energy is needing to be harmonized and fine-tuned with the energy of the Most High on a real, very down-to-earth and practical level. Okay, on a very real down-to-earth and practical level. It's not hocus pocus, it's not tarot, it's not anything like tarot. We don't deal with the planets, moon, stars, and so forth and so on. But this is just straight energy. This is basically the energy that our Elohim has placed within the Hebrew alphabet. That is this energy here. Okay, and so you connect with the energy that's in these cards. Even from where you are, and of course we get a depiction of that energy. So let's go to the card table. If we can find the card table, let's go and let's lay down some cards and let us see what the Most High is going to share with us regarding, let's say, if it's an individual or something is happening in your particular life. Maybe you can get some insights from this, okay? So let's do this. I'm going to pull these up from the last reading. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put those right back in. Peace and blessings unto you, Yahweh Elohai. We thank you, we honor you, we praise you, we glory only in you. We thank you. You are our help, our strength. You are our salvation. And so we come unto you. We thank you for the prophetic instrument. We thank you for the prophetic tool. We thank you for your ability to speak into our lives, even using this. You established in your word, in Tanakh, and you made it so that we would be able to cast lots and we would be able to ascertain what your will is. And so we thank you, we give you praise, glory, and honor. Something should be mentioned in that when lots were cast in scriptures, there was a question or there was an issue at hand. Okay? And I've got something in mind. And once everything is out, perhaps I will just let the cat out of the bag and tell you what's going on. While I do this, let me just hop over here and see if okay, no comments, YouTube. Okay, we're good. Okay, alrighty. We will go back to station identification. And this is concerning a situation here. All right, this is concerning a situation. And as always, we're going to just we're feeling energy. We're just making sure that our hearts are giving us an inner yes, okay? I'm just going through the cards. I'm going through them. I don't even know what they are. But when my spirit gives me an inner yes, because the energy of the cards are those that match the energy that our Elohim has placed within the Hebrew alphabet. And this one, I don't know what this will be. I'm going to lay it out there. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right. And another one. Here we go. Okay. And this one. Interesting. Oh, really? Okay. Feeling this one. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So what does this say? Okay. This is very interesting. The Zayin is okay. Let me put it to you this way. The Zayin, and then we're going to get into the book after this. The Zayin is a feminine energy. Okay. Now I'm going to say something that may shock some of you as you take a look at this, but the Zayin energy is a feminine energy, and it is an energy of rulership. It's an energy of power. It is an energy that has the ability to both fight and defend, but also to nurture. Okay, so it is a feminine energy that is very powerful in its ability to embrace both extremes, if you will. You cannot build in war, okay? You need peace in order to build. Zayin has the ability to resolve issues and bring peace and then do the building, okay? So what I'm seeing here is that there is, and this is actually interesting here, Zayin being feminine energy, it has the ability to, as I said before, to defend. It can get with the getting when it needs to, but then also it has the ability to nurture. So it is a feminine energy. And let me do this. Let me read to you some of and this is out of my other book, The Hebrew Alphabet for Life and Business. I just want to read to you a couple of things about Zayin, okay? Give me just a second here. Here we go. Zayin is a sword and a crown, okay? It's a sword, a crown, and a scepter. And the sword and the crown and the scepter, they all work together in tandem, okay? The scepter speaks of longevity of rule. It not only speaks of rule, but it also speaks of accomplishment, okay? So it's the power to accomplish and to be accomplished. Also, it is a sword, again, for protection and for the offensive, but then it's a crown, which means that this energy is able to hold its own. So we're talking about a divine energy here that is able to hold its own, right? But yet and still at the same time, we've got an interesting dynamic. Oh, should I read more of that? Yeah, let me read just a little bit more of this. Zayin is aggression. I'm sorry. It can be aggressive. Okay. Okay, let me just read this. Some fight to be released from a situation. Some run toward a goal, being drawn by an inward drive to fulfill an inward vision. Zayin's form is of a sword. The top is the handle. Okay, the vertical leg is the blade. Excuse me. It is a crown. It is worn by nobility. Zayin is also a scepter held by one ruling or having arrived at a certain level. So, the deeper look. Let me let you in on the deeper look here. Zayin also represents a plow. As such, it represents the ability to produce, which is what I was saying before. You build in peace, right? It is the ability to produce food, to nourish, and the ability as well to cut. It is the ability to produce and to protect. As a crown, Zayin is the emblem of authority and the presence of a legacy or dynasty unfolding in the moment. Please understand that. Zayin is the energy of a legacy that is unfolding in the moment. In the Tanakh, it is arrived at by divine appointment. Okay, so in the kingdom, we don't get there just by happenstance. It happens by divine appointment. A sword of defense, weaponized aggression, this is all contained within Zayin. Zayin wields the sword, defends and participates in aggression. There's self-preservation and even a sense of altruism involved in Zayin. And all of those things are connected to it. It's all locked up within that energy. This entails maintaining what you have. Zayin has the ability to do that. Zayin is also the number 7, which leads us to Shabbat, which is where we are. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Our divine rest for rejuvenation and communion with our Elohim. It is a time of reflection and introspection. Shabbat is a global system of covenant for the entirety of mankind. As such, Zayin, represents Shabbat as the crown of creation, as the holder of the scepter. The energy of Zayin is ruling energy, whereby one is maintaining their kingdom. And that's coming from my other book, The Hebrew Alphabet for Life, for life and for business. So Zayin then is a very powerful energy. Again, it has the ability to protect, it has the ability to nourish, to produce. But it is, as the book reads, it is also a part of the crowning of creation in Shabbat. So there is a finishing, there is a completeness to Zayin, okay? There is a completeness to Zayin, and with that completeness, it simply says that right now, and for those of you that don't know this, there's significance in the color of the cards. Right now, with this particular situation that we're dealing with, there's a great deal more that's going on spiritually than there is naturally. But it involves the ability to squash an issue, remain in peace, and then begin to build off of that. That's what's happening here. Now, in this struggle, okay, because this is an individual trying to maintain that. But in the midst of this struggle, this individual is being given a God-given gift that's going to help to resolve the issue and pave the way so that this individual can receive a divine portion of our Elohim's protection and provision. So basically this person has to come to a place where they are just willing to receive. In other words, I receive help, I accept what's coming to me, I accept it, and I'm just going to flow with it. And in it is the ability for the divine to bring, our Elohim to bring unto us that is necessary. So we're trying to hold it down, okay? We're trying to hold it down the best we can. We're doing the best that we can. It may be, it may be that it's challenging, but we're trying to hold it down the best that we can. But we need a gift from the Elohim, our Elohim, to be able to help us. And in this is something that is being given that's going to bring resolution and a sense of finality to the entire situation, so that it can be experienced on a divine level as opposed to just a natural level that an individual was really seeking for. It's like this, like when you see this and you see one Zion and then you have another Zion, and this one of course is coming from our Elohim up above. Long story short, I've heard it said this way, and I've said it many times, that the reality is much different than the dream. The reality is much different than the dream. And so that's what this says here. You're striving, you're trying to hold it down, you're trying to make some progress, you're trying to keep things nailed down. And yes, it's important for you to maintain, and you may have to do some fighting and then do some building, do some fighting, then do some building. But it's almost like you have to continue to defend your own, right, in this situation. But you need to not be completely just within your own abilities, not within your own self. Understand that the Most High has a gift. The Most High is helping you in this endeavor, giving you something that's going to resolve the situation completely and totally, so that you can then experience His version of what you were really working for all this time. So we're just going to flow with that, and we could get more into that, but we're going to let that be. And we're just going to continue now in talking about the book. Just before we get into the book, let me go here and just see if we need to do some shout outs. And okay, looks like we're flying solo. That's a-okay. We're going to continue. That's going to make this short, which is okay. Now, in the book here, The African Hebrews in America, this book is it's intended to not be exhaustive, but yet at the same time, it is addressing some issues. Okay, I am going to make some changes in the book. As I said before, there's going to be some parts of it that are going to be expanded and expounded upon. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. There are certain questions that are being asked in this book. For instance, the whole book is about this. Okay, you see the title, right? African Hebrews in America. Is that possible? Is it possible that there are African Hebrews in America? Okay, and if it is so, and if it's true that the identity of the Hebrews living in America as African Americans, what would have to be in place? What would have to be a reality in order for that to be true? And so this book addresses that. Now, one of the first things that it discusses or addresses is that there would have to be some sort of conspiracy. There would have to be a knowing of the truth, and there would have to be a group of individuals that are organized in their effort to keep those truths away from those of us that do not know. Okay? And so we ask the question whether or not that's true. Now, I feel that and in fact I wrote about it, I feel as if there is evidence that supports that there is a conspiracy. And this evidence is even found in the Constitution of the United States. Yes, it's found in the Constitution of the United States. It's found in the 13th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. And as well, it's also, you get the book, you'll read it. It's also in other places. Evidence is also in other places. Also, too, there would have to be this whole thing of there being so much anti-Semitism. Now, I'm not for anti-Semitism. I don't teach hate. I don't get into some of the topics and subjects that some of our brethren do. Only because, whatever happens to an entire group of people, that's in the hands of our Elohim. However, I'm about the restoration, and I'm about the help and the restoration of our people, the diaspora. And hey, I'm trying to uplift us, help us, train us, help organize us, so forth and so on. That being the case, I don't have time to get into petty arguments regarding certain issues, right? I heard it said this way. In fact, I'll even update it. If I were to say what this saying, okay, I'll say what this saying originally was. I heard back in the day a particular speaker say this, and she was addressing not being involved in every issue, in every item, not debating every little minutia, and not getting into every fight that people wanted to pick with her. And she said this. She said, well, Mike Tyson doesn't hop in the ring with just any fool that wants to fight. And of course the crowd went crazy, right? The crowd loved that statement. To give you a demonstration of an anachronism, we could say, well, Merriweather doesn't hop in the ring with any fool that that just wants to fight him. That would be a more up-to-date, relatively recent fighter, very recent fighter that we could use, and that's an example of an anachronism. But long story short, I don't get into a lot of the issues, right? I'm not trying to fight every battle with this book, but rather what I am doing is I'm addressing something that I feel needs to be a part of the conversation. I feel as if someone needs to ask the question, if it were true, what would have to be in place? And is there evidence of that being in place? Is there evidence? Can we prove it? When someone looks at you and they say, well, why do you have, seed? Why are you observing Shabbat? Why are you doing all this? Why are you trying to keep the feast? You're able to look and say, okay, because I'm Hebrew, right? But by what logical right do you have to believe that you are a Hebrew? Especially if you've been labeled already as an African American. What right would you have to even think that you could be such a thing? Well, this book seeks to give you just a little bit of an insight as to how that is true and how it can actually be that you are a Hebrew in America, right? So with that being the case, let me read a little bit of the book. And you'll get a good feel. In fact, you can also go to Amazon and get it, right? You can also go to Amazon and get the book. Let me do this. Let me take you to Amazon real quick, and I just want to show you. Okay, here we go. You can get it on Amazon, and you can even look inside, but let me just read a little bit for you. And this is just a part of the introduction, okay? This present study, which makes this work necessary, in addition to the growing cacophony of rebuttals and objections, it evinces the existence of a great and seemingly unstoppable movement. The movement is that of once lethargic minds, which could only imagine a less than ideal destiny, now embracing a biblical Hebrew definition of self, family, community, and nation. The children of former slaves, deemed less than 3/5 of a human, and often systematically treated as less than second-class citizens, are standing up to the divine definition of self. Very important. This new mental transformation not only empowers their embrace of chosenness, but firmly plants their feet and expectation on a solid foundation which stretches from the beginning of creation to the established futuristic kingdom of our Elohim. Naturally, those whose futures are not served by such revelations fight to keep the minds of the once deceived and disempowered vaulted within the darkness of ignorance. The mental dysfunction of the African American facilitates the perpetuation of a sadistic power base whose intent is the perpetuation of genocide in the name of eugenics and the rape of the planet's cultures, resources, and the souls of humanity itself. There would have to be a demonic, diabolical plan set in motion. And the modern day successes of the sadistic power base mentioned above is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood, those who are ambivalent, and those that completely reject this idea. The present, oh please, I need you to understand that. I need you to, let me read that again. The modern day successes of the sadistic power base, mentioned above, is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood, those who are ambivalent, and those that completely reject this idea. The present system creates a conducive atmosphere where clapping and singing to theological concepts which serve its wicked aims only assist in maintaining its power and reaping planetary wealth. The psychologically compromised, the masses gladly comply as they attempt to please God, having accomplished the power structure's will. All this is done in the name of religion, truth, and serving God. The deceived are then comforted with the hope of someday reaping celestial rewards in an invisible kingdom. I'm not going to read any more, but you can see that we're just touching upon some issues that are very sensitive and that are very. They need to be addressed. They need to be talked about, right? They need to be talked about. And so with this, in fact, I think what I'll do is I will do some TikToks on this, and I will do some more videos on this, right? And talk about this as an issue. So let me just take a break right now. Looks like this is going to be peace and blessings to you, my brother. My brother Bergen Paris is here. He says he's just waking up. Well, hey, glad to have you with us. Glad to have you with us. I don't know what you have heard or how much you may have heard. However, I was going through the book here. I was going through the book, and I was just reading the beginning to those that have not. And I know that you have a copy, but and I don't know if you've gotten into it yet. But there is a sentence here. I mean, there's just a couple of sentences here that just it's really pulling on me. I read them before, but I will read them again. Okay. And let me start here, bottom of page 4. The modern day successes of the sadistic power base mentioned above is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood. Okay, so what does that look like? Remaining comfortable in victimhood, what does that look like? It's like, well, just give me Jesus. And we've been worshiping this way all our lives. We've been doing this all our lives. And whatever, Lord is always taking care of us, worshiping Jesus and doing everything that we've been doing. Again, I will read the sentence. The modern day successes of the sadistic power base mentioned above is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood. As long as I'm comfortable, I'm cool, I'm good. As long as I'm comfortable, just leave me alone. Let me do what I do. Don't come to me with new concepts. Don't come to me with anything new, anything fresh, anything. I don't need it. That's just a fad, whatever. I don't want to hear that. I'm comfortable, so let me be. I'm comfortable, so just leave me alone. That is pretty much the mindset. But their successes is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood, those who are ambivalent. Well, what does that look like, being ambivalent? Well, I don't know. So then you don't pull the trigger on anything. You don't commit to anything. There is a great deal of power in committing. There is a great deal of power in committing and being able to say, I'm either on the left side or the right side, I'm this, I'm that. There has to be a commitment. I feel as if we live in a day and age where, things are left in a larval state of incompletion where things are just nebulous, and it's that, there's no defining lines. It's just everything's fuzzy. Everything is, and I feel as if we need to put our eggs in a basket and call it. You got to make a decision. You can't sit on the fence. You can't sit on the fence too long. You got to get off. You got to get off. So this begins to address this and understand, give us basically an understanding that, that there's something going on, but deeper than that, we are enabling and allowing our present reality to exist. I'll say that again. We are enabling, we are empowering, and we are participating and cooperating with our present reality. We are. It's like this. I heard it said this way, and I've been saying this for years. You're not allowed to complain about what you willfully tolerate. You are not allowed to complain about what you willfully tolerate. If you get an opportunity to change it and you don't, then you are willfully tolerating it. Okay? So don't complain. Don't complain. Let me just read the sentence because I didn't get to the last. The modern day successes of the sadistic power base mentioned above is enabled by those who have chosen to remain comfortable in victimhood, those who are ambivalent, and those that completely reject this idea. Those who completely reject the idea of there being African Hebrews in America, they are also helping the sadistic power base. Okay. The present day, in fact, let me do this. I didn't even read the end of that. The present system creates a conducive atmosphere. Oh boy. Okay. The present system creates a conducive atmosphere where clapping and singing to theological concepts which serve its wicked aims only assist in maintaining its power and reaping planetary wealth. Psychologically compromised, the masses gladly comply as they attempt to please God. My cooperating with them is pleasing God. I'm doing God's will, right? Psychologically compromised, the masses gladly comply as they attempt to please God, having accomplished the power structure's will. All this is done in the name of religion, truth, and serving God. Hallelujah. The deceived are then comforted with the hope of someday reaping celestial rewards as in an invisible kingdom. Okay? In an invisible kingdom. They're going to receive these rewards. And, maybe this has come to me just later in years, but, I used to think that those who, when I was, now I'm gonna date myself, but when I was coming up, a popular preacher was Reverend Ike. Now, if I recall correctly, Reverend Ike was out of, I think he was out of Illinois, possibly out of Chicago. And the thing about him was Reverend Ike was one of the first prosperity preachers. He had all the rings and the gold and everything. He was one of the first prosperity preachers. Okay. But back in the day, people wanted to know that they were pleasing God, and you know, they needed a break. They were working all their lives, they were working hard, and so to receive a blessing from God made you feel as if God was there. He hears, he understands, but not only that, he's on your side because he's blessing you, right? He gave you another diamond ring, he gave you another gold chain, he gave you another car, another house. And so this was the mindset that I think that many people got into, right? It may not solve the problem, but if I can just have enough toys around me, or if I can have enough comforts, again, those who are comfortable, they don't want to be bothered, and so they end up enabling the system because they're deriving a sense of comfort from the system. There's more to life than that. There's more to us than that. There's more to you than that, than just remaining comfortable. So the book gets into much more than what I'm even saying or talking about, but yeah, we will just continue here. We will continue here, but this is, as I said before, we're going to expand the book. We're expounding upon the book, right? And if you provide some information, it'll go in the book. You will get a mention. Your name will be put in a special section, and so forth and so on. You can be a part of this. So if you want to be a part of this, you can be a part of this, because this is only the first edition. There's already things I want to add concerning the first part of the book that talks about conspiracy. There are some more modern day examples of conspiracy regarding this. And there's other things too that we can add all through the book. Now this was not intended to be exhaustive. Really wasn't intended to be exhaustive, but it was purposely put out so that it would begin the discussion, and so that those of you that have it would be able to look and say, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense, and I see how there can be a conspiracy. I see how there's evidence, ancient evidence, that the Yahudi was far more of an Africoid appearance rather than what we see today. And I mean, it's right there. It's right there. So anyway, we could go deeper into it. Okay, my brother says, and thank you for that, my brother. He says that my schedule has changed, and I hope that I can start reading it tonight. Well, I hope that you can too. And again, I'm interested in your thoughts. I'm interested in your honest opinion. And if any of you read any of my books, and any books or any music, and you want to comment, I'm open. You can always comment. Okay, we can have a real conversation about anything. So the book is interesting. Now, let me get into this, because Ron Dalton does a lot on the diaspora and who they are today, meaning what African tribes, actually have cultural links and ties to Hebrew Israelites and have a tradition. So let me just explain this. Let me go back just a little bit. Call it, if you will, call it something like cultural anthropology, where you're trying to determine what culture. Let's say you find some pottery sherds, some broken pottery, you find broken pottery in your backyard, right? And so you want to know whose it is, what's going on, what about this, where did it come from, who are the people? Well, a cultural anthropologist would gather all the information and do some testing to try to date it, so forth and so on. And if there was evidence of the traditions of the people, meaning their cultural memory, if there is linguistic evidence, such as many of the words lining up with Hebrew, if there are practices and traditions by means of their social structure and order. In other words, if they have a way of, every year we have a feast, and this is what we do. There's a lamb, and these parallels, these parallels to the Hebrew culture are all markers, if you will, that help to pinpoint who the diaspora are in our modern day and time, even though they may have a different tribal name, even though they may live in a different part of the world. We can still trace by means of culture. We can trace them as a people and their connections. We can trace that, okay, with some degree of certainty into a core group of people that we can say, you know what, this group of people here, they went over there, and we know that because of the linguistic evidence, because of the cultural evidence, because of the traditional evidence, their social mores and practices, so forth and so on, their laws and their customs, their style of government. So in other words, you can track a people not just by DNA and genetics, but you can track a people by means of the life that they are living, okay? You can track them. You can track them by that. Now, I mention that because right now I'm looking at the Bantu connection in relationship to Hebrew Israelites, okay, and in relationship to the Dead Sea Scrolls, and also in relationship to their calendar. Now, I did find out something very interesting. What did you find out that was interesting? Okay, thought you'd never ask. We have, I will say this, we have a mindset that for whatever reason, we think that where we are, like I'm talking about us over here in America, we feel as if, well, since we're over here in America, when it becomes spring, yeah, spring is the time where we start thinking about the feast and we start thinking about Passover, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's April's coming. We need to find out the date of Passover right away. You know, let's hurry up and find out the date of Passover, because we want to keep the feast. We want to keep the feast, right? We want to do all that we can to uphold and to keep the feast. Well, let's kind of take a look at something here. All right, let's take a look at something, and let's get into some scriptures real quick. As I mentioned this, we're going to go to Genesis, the book of Bereshit. And I'm going to look at a couple of verses, okay? So let's look at Genesis 12 and 1 first. It says, now Yahuwah had said unto Abram, get out of your country. Leave where you are, right? I want you to get out of your country. I want you to, I want you to get away from your kindred and from your father's house unto a land that I will show you, okay? And he says, well, I'm going to make you a great nation, and so forth and so on. And he talks to him. And of course, we know that Abraham journeys out. Now, let's go to Genesis 13. And we see something here. I've got something highlighted for you already. Genesis 13 and 1. And Abram went out of Egypt. Now, we know where Egypt is, right? Hold on. I want to get you a map of Egypt real quick. I mean, really, a map of Africa. Okay. All right. In fact, let me do this. Why don't I just go to Google Maps? Excuse me. All right. This is the United States, as we know. We're going to go to Africa, the motherland. Right. We're going to go to the motherland. Now we see Egypt up here, right? So wait a minute. That's Egypt. Let me do this. Let me just go in just a little bit closer. Okay. All right. So here is Egypt. Now, let's go back into the scriptures and let's take a look at this. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot went with him where? Into the south. So wait a minute. Why is that important? It's important for this reason. Okay. If you take a look at Egypt here, right? And we know that the Nile runs in this direction, right? It runs from the south of Africa to the north of Africa. Now, wait a minute. Why would that be the case? It would be the case because you need elevation in order for a river to flow. Have you ever seen, I mean, we've all seen waterfalls, right? You've never seen a river go up a mountain, right? You've never seen that. Why? Because water flows from its highest elevation to the lowest elevation. So one clue for us is that the Nile flows from the southern part of Africa all the way up to Egypt. Why? Because it has Egypt has a lower elevation. So as let's imagine that you're right here in Egypt, right? You're right here in Egypt by this body of water, and then you started to go south. As you go south, you're increasing in elevation. You're actually going up, okay? You're going up in elevation as you continue to walk towards the south and go into the heart of Africa. So let's take a look at that verse of scripture once again and notice what it reads. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot went with him. And where did they go? Into the south. They went into the south. Oh, wait a minute. So let's take a look here. If you're in Egypt and you're going south out of Egypt, you immediately go into the Sudan. You go to, listen, these are the places that you go. Basically, you're going into the interior of Africa. Now, why would I even bring this up? I'm bringing this up because there is a school of thought and also biblical evidence that suggests that everything that we read about in the Tanakh took place in the interior of Africa. I'm researching it out right now. Okay, what I know is this, is that when Abram went out of Egypt, he went from Egypt, and he went from Egypt, he went to the south, which takes him into the interior of Africa, right? Takes him into the interior of Africa. If he went west out of Egypt, right, he would have gone to the west side of Africa. If he had have gone farther east or even north, of course, that would have taken him definitely into other territories. But he went south out of Egypt, which means then that yes, by him going south, he went into the interior of Africa. Now wait a minute, hold on. That being the case, okay, I'm just checking for comments. That being the case, yeah, then there must have been a number of things that took place in the interior of Africa. So let me do this. Now, what does the scripture say? The scripture reads that he went into the south, right? And Abraham was very rich in cattle and silver and gold, and he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel. Okay, hold on. So now, there then would have to be a Bethel in South Africa. Is that possible? Bethel. And look, there is a Bethel in South Africa. There is a Bethel in South Africa. Interesting. Okay. So what I'm interested in doing right now, and again, I'm just searching all this out, right? I've heard some people say some things and I need to verify it with evidence. I need to, in fact, you know what? I wish I had those ancient maps here. Let me do this, because it's one thing for someone to name a modern city after a biblical town or city, but if we found an ancient map of Africa, okay? Ancient map of Africa. So if we look at an ancient map of Africa, I wonder if we would find some of these places that are here, that we read about in scripture. Okay, and I can't get close enough. I cannot get close enough to, in fact, what year is this map? Hold on, what year, excuse me, I'm trying to find a year for this map, and I do not see a year on the map. Hold on here. Let's see here. I don't see a year anywhere. Yeah, I'm not finding a year. Oh, 16 in the bottom corner. I see it. I could point to it. Way on this line right here. In the far corner, in the direction I was pointing, there is a date of 16. It looks like 1688. I don't have my glasses on. 1688. Okay. I wish I could blow this up more because I cannot read. I cannot read the. I cannot read a lot of the cities and territories on here. But there is another map that I can find where I did see Jerusalem on an ancient map. Jerusalem and Bethel. And I know I could find it here if I were able to zoom. If I were able to zoom into... Let's see here. Can I zoom in this way? Come on, come on. It's like it wants to do it, but it doesn't want to let me. Okay, okay. All right, it's not going to let me do it. However, I would need to blow it up in order to take a look at it. But okay, now there's some, but this only gives me. Let's see here. I can't even move that. Oh. Well, I did something. I don't know what I did. Oh, it stopped, man. And it's not letting me move around like I want. However, long story short, when we take a look at the scriptures, it does read that Abram went south out of Egypt. And I'm just saying, very plain, if you go south out of Egypt, there is if you go south out of Egypt, you go into the interior of Africa. That's all there is to it. All right. So what about that then? What about that? My reason for bringing this up is this. You have to look at, okay, I'm going to say this. Wherever Jerusalem is, you have to look at that region and that territory, and you have to look at when that region and territory has its season of spring. Okay? And when that territory has its season of spring, regardless to your territory, when you look at that particular season of spring, you go by that because we are attached to the biblical Jerusalem. Excuse me. We're attached to the biblical Jerusalem. So when we have spring here in the United States, it does not matter. This is when we have our spring, right? Because we're here in the United States. But the spring and the festival that's in the spring that we need to attach to is, biblically, it is Jerusalem. And if Abram went south from Egypt into the interior of Africa, the Jerusalem then that is in Africa, whenever that springtime comes, we then need to know when that springtime is, and then of course structure our feast times and our feast days upon that timetable and not the one in our particular location. Went the long way around with that one, but I needed to kind of say it in a way that would kind of make sense. Okay? In a way that would kind of make sense. Let me check real quick for any questions or comments that we may have. Got to refresh on Facebook to see if we have any comments. And looks like we are good. Check real quick for... Okay, and let me look at... Okay. All right. So I don't think that I don't see any comments. I don't see any questions. So with that being the case, then, I mean, I'm checking it out because I'm looking at the Bantu connection. Now, there's something else I'm also looking at. I'm looking at the language of Isikosa, right? Because Isikosa or Isikosa is supposedly now I'm checking this out because I did hear this. When I hear something, I've got to verify it or I have to leave it alone. But supposedly the language of Isikosa is perhaps thought to be the original language of the Dead Sea Scrolls, or the language of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that was taken and somehow made to be, I don't know, some are saying that they've, and I've heard different things that I cannot corroborate, I cannot prove, that the Greek language actually comes from an African language, and that African language is closely related, if not Isikosa. And there are languages, if you will. Yeah, and let me back up, because see here's where I run into a problem with this thought and with this theory. Okay, we all know what Greek is. We know what Greek is. Greek has its own, it is a script of all of its own, right? You have the Aleph, the Beta, you've got the Delta, and you've got all of these other languages in the script, but you don't have a Delta in Isikosa. I mean, I'm talking about the triangle Delta in Isikosa. So for me, it becomes problematic when you look at the script of Greek as opposed to the Isikosa. I don't see how it could be true, to be honest with you. If someone knows how the language of the Dead Sea Scrolls can also be Isikosa, then I need you to help me out with that. I need you to help me find out that. Give me some documentation. Give me some proof that that's true. Because I'm hearing a lot of things, and it's becoming where, like in a debate, a person will say, well, this is special pleading. It's like, you want me to believe that someone fabricated a language and then they changed everything and they did this. And I mean, I get it. But how much are we supposed to believe? How much are we supposed to listen without evidence? How much are we supposed to believe at face value? I need the proof. And so far, there's languages like, for instance, okay, now let me give you an example of part of the confusion that also makes it a little rough. In talking about the Isikosa language uses the same alphabet, if you will, as we would use in English. It's kind of like this. Just like you can take English alphabets that we use, but you can use those same alphabets for Spanish and also for French, right? Also for Italian. Now, those are all different languages. Now, is it possible that there could be a word in those languages that would also be a word in English or amongst each other? Is that possible? I think it is possible, okay? But there's been someone on YouTube that said, look, the Dead Sea Scrolls, I was looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls and I saw where they had written this, and they're looking at, excuse me, they're looking at one of the Dead Sea Scrolls and they see the Isikosa language, which is an African language, and they're saying, well, yeah, that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and therefore, those of the Qumran community, those perhaps even of Jerusalem, they spoke Isikosa rather than Aramaic. I mean, to me, to me, that's a lot to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow. I don't know about that. I need to prove that. I need to find the receipts. Show me the receipts, and I'll co-sign. But until it's proven, I gotta dig, and I have to make some sense of it. But what we do know is this: no one can deny the fact that Abram went south out of Egypt. No one can deny that, right? Now, they've tried to change that. In fact, let me do this. Let me do this. Right now we are in. Okay, this is the King James version, right? He went out of Egypt and he went into the south. So let's do this. So he's in Egypt and he goes to the south, right? And he goes to the south even unto Bethel. This is in the King James version. Let me pull up another Bible. Let me pull up another Bible. I'm just gonna pull up. Oh, let me pull up. Oh, I could do. It's got to be a Bible in English. Let's do this. Let's do the NIV. Okay. And what does it say? Let me make this bigger for you. All right. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife. So where is the Negev? Oh, you don't see what I'm doing, do you? No, you don't. Okay. Okay, now you can see what I'm doing. This is the NIV. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev. It says the dry desert region in the southern portion of Israel. So wait a minute. The NIV, now I told you, the NIV then makes this to be different, as if he is actually in Palestine, that he went to the south out of Egypt and into Palestine. So wait, how is that possible? How do you go south out of Egypt and end up in Palestine over here? How does that work? How does that happen? How do you go south out of Egypt and end up here in Palestine? How does that happen? If you go south out of Egypt, you go into the interior of Africa, not into modern day Israel. So then let's do this. Did you see what just happened? They tried to say that they changed this basically. They changed this basically to say that he really went north. So let's do this. Let's do this. He went into the south, right? He went into the Negev, south. I don't know if you can see that, but let me make sure that you can see that. Okay. Negev, south. He went south. Okay. He went south. So why then is it that the NIV is trying to make it as if he didn't go really to the south? No, he went to the north. Why are they trying to make it seem that? You know why? Because it's in, listen. If you say that he went south from Egypt and he continued going south, do you know what you're doing? You are saying that Abram went into the heart of Africa and that everything biblical, including the promised land, is in Africa, the interior of Africa. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because it would put a hole in the head of eugenics It would put a hole in the head of racism. It puts a hole in the head of all of these, everything that has contributed to our demise, or contributing, I should say, to our demise. Not contributed, but because we're here. We have no demise. We're here. So with this being the case, then, it's important then for them to control the narrative and to make it as if in going south, he actually ended up in Israel. How is that important? How is that possible? How do you make that happen? It's impossible for that to happen. He went south out of Egypt. I mean, unless south is no longer south and south has become north, if you go south out of Egypt, right, you have to go into the interior of Africa. So them trying to get him out here in the Middle East, which I don't know where the Middle West is, or the Middle North, or the Middle South, but them trying to get him here in the Middle East so that they can attach him to the farther eastern regions and the Caucasus Mountains and to Europe. It's important for them to do that because then they control the narrative, and it's important for them to always put their presence in everything. And so they can't have a black Bible. They cannot have a Bible that is completely African, nor its patriarchs and its leaders and so forth and so on. They can't have it. It's got to always be that we were there. We're the saviors of the day. We did it. Egypt was white. God is white. Everything, it has to be that way. It has to be that way. Otherwise, their narrative is destroyed and the house of cards comes tumbling down. We can see it plain as day. He went south, which means he went into the interior of Africa. Plain to see, right? Plain to see. All right, so checking again. Let me just check again and see if we have. I don't know if we have any comments or such. But let me refresh to check the comments. And excuse that little bit of feedback. Let me also go to. All right. So I think that we are good. So hey, this is just a part of the discussion. I'm looking at calendars. I'm looking at the reality of what's supposed to be taking place, right? And thus far, what I see is that we have a mandate to go by the calendar of Jerusalem, which is far more east of us than where we are right now. And I'm speaking to those of us in America, which means that that's going to change our calendar dates, even our seasons, as to when we celebrate Passover and the other feast days. Okay? Again, those who would take the Enochian calendar, and I subscribe to the Enochian calendar. I subscribe to the Zadokian or the Zadokite priests and their solar calendar and let me back up. The solar emphasis is of major interest when it comes to the Qumran community, the Yachad. It's a major concern because they were fighting those and they were against those who had taken the system that our Elohim had given us and they have reversed it. And so the Romans wanted a lunar calendar as opposed to a solar calendar. Now, the reason why that's a problem, in fact, let me do this. Let's go to, if you don't mind, let me do this. We'll look at Safaria. Let's see here. That's safaria.org. Give me a second. Pull it up. Okay, come on. You can do it. There we go. And we're going to go to in Sefaria, we're going to go to, oh, let's do this first. Let's go to Jubilees. I want to say 2 and 9. Let's start there. Okay. Dry land appears. Let's continue. And on the fourth day, he created the sun and the moon and the stars and set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, right? And, oh, I keep passing it. Okay, I keep passing it. I apologize. And on the fourth day, he created the sun and the moon and the stars and set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and the night, and divide the light from the darkness. Now, notice what it reads here in verse number 18. And God appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth. Notice it didn't say sun and moon, but God appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days and for Shabbats and for months and for feasts and for years and for Sabbath of years and for jubilees and for all seasons of the years. It is the sun that is supposed to dictate. Okay, so the Enochian calendar is in play, but wait a minute. The Enochian calendar, and hear me when I say this, no calendar should completely discount the moon and the lunar aspect, because again, it is the sun that rules, but the moon corroborates and substantiates and serves as evidence, if you will, for the sun being the main consideration. Now, those who wanted to change the system, Daniel 7 and verse 23 and 24, he shall come and think to change times and laws, right? The Romans came and they changed times and laws, and they said, we want a lunar calendar, which means they would allow the moon to dominate over the sun when it comes to dictating what they do and when they do it. The priests in Jerusalem said, it ain't gonna happen. We don't do it that way. It's been done this way for thousands of years. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, you guys are out of here. Take your books, go with you. And of course, they went to Qumran. And this is why we have the materials that we do at Qumran, right? Because the temple library was reduced to only what was mandated to be there, being different copies of the Torah, but all of the other extra works had to go. They had to go. And so this was the cache at Qumran. So it was a lunar, in fact, when you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's a battle between the sons of light and those who are the sons of darkness, who have the lunar calendar. It's a battle of calendars. That's what all the apocryphal work of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's about those who hold the lunar calendar system as opposed to those who hold the solar calendar system. Those are the sons of darkness, those who are in the darkness looking at the moon, and those in the light, the sons of light, are those who are beholding the solar calendar. Okay, that's what it's all about. It is very celestial. It is very political. Okay, it's not battling wickedness and dark. No, they're talking about two different calendrical systems. That's what they're talking about. So in the book of Jubilees, which now you understand why the book of Jubilees had had to be done away with, right? Why it had to be taken outside of the canon, because it institutes and substantiates there being a solar calendar, okay, which again connects with the Enochian system, a solar calendar which details, hey, that this is how you look at the seasons and the feasts, okay? And this is the timing of our Elohim when you look at the solar calendar and consider the solar calendar. And so this was not wanted by those who were in excuse me, in tight with Rome. There were many Jews who were playing the part and who were just like, hey, you know, we wanna keep getting paid. We want whatever. Again, we want to be comfortable, so we're gonna let whatever system be. Okay, and so they went along with the system. Okay, so you had many sellouts back then, just like you do today. So, that being the case, you know, you understand a little bit more about the Dead Sea Scrolls, but Jubilees, it's interesting because it is in Jubilees that we see that there is a different numbering of the days of the year. Okay? It's different numberings of the days of the year. There is, see, I'd have to really get into this. And I don't want to get into it this deep right now. I want to get into it this deep, but long story short, you have a day of reset. Every year you have a day of reset. And the day that comes before the New Year's Day is a day of reset. It stands on its own, okay? And you go by the see, and I'm about to get into it really deep. I don't want to get into it that deep because we're really talking about something else. But you can see here why they had to take the Book of Jubilees out. Okay, you see why they had to. Let me begin to wrap this up. So let's do this. Let me just check one more time. I want to see if we have any. I don't know if there's any comments or questions. I'm gonna have to refresh. Give me a second. Okay. All right. I'm taking a look. Yeah. So I'm digging more into it, and as I dig more into it, hey, we will definitely take a look at this, and so we will keep it rolling. I will bring you in on what I find out and when I find it out. But here's the deal. I got to know for a fact that it's, you know, again, I need evidence. I have to know for a fact that it is truly solid, it's true, it's corroborated. We've got the evidence, we've got the receipts. Everything's going to line up. It's got to make sense, it's got to be kosher. And then I can co-sign to it, okay? So once that happens, I will gladly, you know, swing from the chandelier and shout it out to each and every one. So that being that. All right. Listen, thank you for joining me on today. Thank you for being a part of the Shabbat morning coffee. Hey, glad you're here. And at this particular point, without there being any questions or comments, I think I'm going to skedaddle. Okay, I think I'm going to skedaddle. So, all right. Okay, so I think that we are good. And peace and blessings. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. And hey, we will just hop on whenever we got content and whenever we're led to do so. If I don't hop on in the middle of the week, of course, I will see you for Shabbat night praise. And hey, we'll also, and I'm putting together some stuff, and I'm working really hard right now there's a number of things that I'm doing all at once, and I'm working really hard. But this, I'm working on another work right now that's going to make this look like, it's going to make this look like a postage stamp. I mean, it's just, it's deep too. Anyway, we'll talk about it. But doing a lot right now, so I will hop back on definitely, and we'll talk, and we'll see what's going on. So peace and blessings. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. And I want to say, hey, let's just keep it moving. Walk with the Most High, keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and we will see you later.